I'm David Joseph Denning. I'm currently stationed at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska with my family. Been in the Air Force for 15 years, and I am related to Joseph Smith through his son Alexander, and Alexander's daughter Coral Cecil Rebecca Smith, and then my grandmother Lorena Ina Horner, or Normando, and then my mom Gracia Jones. And was asked basically to share what I feel about being related to Joseph Smith. It's a very deep topic. From young, when I was young, my mom told me I was related to Joseph Smith, and growing up, people treated you differently in some ways. Some treated you or revered us as being members of, related to Joseph Smith, and others kind of looked at us as if they didn't want to be near us. I think sometimes it was more of they wondered just if we felt like, that we were royalty. And so in my growing up, I always felt that, yes, I am related to Joseph Smith, but yet I am my own person. I am David Joseph Denning, but yet I also think that comes within our lineage, is that we stand for who we are. We don't make excuses or pretenses of, trying to be something that we are not. And I think that's what Joseph Smith was. He stood up and said, I am who I am. I've been given this calling, and it was from God. But just because, I call myself a prophet doesn't mean that I am any less a person. And in many aspects, that's been my life. Is, yes, I'm related to Joseph Smith, and I'm proud of that lineage. And with it comes great responsibility, and it's an honor. But yet also I know that I'm who I am. And I don't have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ because of being related to Joseph Smith. I have a testimony because I know it's true. And with the Book of Mormon, I remember right before I went and served a mission in Taiwan for 2 years, right before my mission, as I was preparing to go, actually even back further, because I was always around with my mom during church settings. And she was always pulling me in and introducing me to everybody, and she'd always say, when Dave's going on his mission. And I felt a lot of pressure to go on a mission because of that, and partly because of being a descendant of Joseph Smith in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And one time, I think I was maybe 16 or 17, and I pulled my mom aside and I said, Mom, you need to stop that. Because if I go on a mission, I'm going to go because I want to. I'm not going to go on a mission because of who I'm related to or because it's expected of me. I'm going to go because that's what the Lord wants me to do. And when I was in my senior year of high school, I was struggling, trying to decide whether I wanted to go on a mission or not. And I was learning this one song, and there's this part that says, I'll go and find you, my friend, and help you. And then I was singing that phrase. I felt the Spirit bear witness to me that I had friends out there that only I could find, only I could teach, and they were waiting for me. And at that time I received that testimony that it was something special, not just because of who I was or who I'm related to, but yet that there was something important for me to accomplish and do. And so I went and served a mission. But right before my mission, I had yet to have read the Book of Mormon all the way through. And the night before my farewell, I was into chapter 4 of Ether. Still quite a ways to go. And I thought, tomorrow I'm going to bear my testimony on the Book of Mormon. And I've never read it all the way through. And so that night I was up all night long reading the Book of Mormon until I finished it. So that when I went to my farewell and bore testimony, I could honestly say that I had read the Book of Mormon all the way through. And that I've always known it was true, so I didn't have to pray about it. And I've always known of the power of the Book of Mormon and that it can change lives. And so that was a interesting experience for me. Just those few couple years as to growing and utilizing what I know of my lineage, and yet understanding that I have to make my own place. in this world and make my own mark, so to speak. And during my mission, I read the Book of Mormon 5 times, and in English, and then the 6th time that I read it was in Chinese. It took me 6 months, but I finished it in Chinese, which was a great accomplishment. But I've always known that the Book of Mormon is true. I've never doubted it. I've always known Joseph Smith was a prophet. I've never doubted it. And in some ways, I mean, it is my own testimony, and it's not based on the fact that I'm just related to him. But it was interesting was last night I met a member of the family who did not grow up in the Mormon church. Did not grow up, in fact, he's Methodist now. But I asked him what he thought about Joseph Smith, and he said, I believe he was a prophet of God. I believe he did exactly what he said he did. And that was from someone who is a non-member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I'm going to just finish this out, unless there's anything else you want to know, with just saying it is a great honor. It has its difficulties and it has its trials, but yet I think everybody in their life has an opportunity to make a mark and to prove who they are, regardless of their lineage, because when it comes right down to it, each one of us is special in our own right, in our own way. I think it's made a difference in my life in that I try to emulate how he was, where I try and help people wherever I can, regardless of the situation that I find myself in or find them in. I try and treat them with what respect and honor that they deserve. There's been times, if I may share an experience, where I was I was home from my mission about 2 months. I wasn't really rich, and I was eating breakfast at a Burger King, and they had like a burrito, and I was eating it, and I was just like, oh, this is so good, and I was enjoying it. And I looked over, and the other side of the room was an individual who looked like real shabbily dressed, kind of like a hobo, and all he had was a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden, I just felt the Spirit whisper to me, that man has nothing else to eat. And I think being a member of the Joseph Smith family, I've always been, introduced to people. Always been, hey, meet so-and-so. And so I'm a very outgoing individual. And it was no problem for me to stand up, and I walked over to him, and I said, sir, can I sit with you? And he kind of looked at me like, what? And we started talking, and then I asked, can I buy you something to eat? And that was me, but yet I think a lot of ways that's how Joseph Smith was, he sees someone in need, and he felt it, whether they expressed it or not. And I think in a lot of ways, many of us in the family have those feelings or the intuition. I can't say whether it's more than anybody else, but there's sometimes I think a guidance that comes with being a member of the Smith family. And at that moment, I think was one of those moments. And he hadn't eaten in 2 days, and I ended up buying him breakfast, and then we parted ways. But there's that's just one isolated incident. But I mean, I've had experiences like that through my whole life.